Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to another Digital Den mini class, continuing on our Cartoonize Yourself series here on Photoshop. And we're going to be looking at a couple of different filters in our filter gallery today to be able to give yourself a painted look on an image that you like. So without further ado, let's jump into Photoshop and take a look at how we're going to do this today. All right, so here we are back in Photoshop, and this is the goofy image that we turned our picture into last time. So if we turn off our outlines and our effects layer, this is the image that we were working with previously. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open back up that picture once again, and we're going to start fresh here. I got one with me without glasses on, and it's pretty much the same image, so we're going to work with that one today. First thing I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to rotate this counterclockwise to be able to get to the direction that we're going to be wanting here, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the background entirely. And I've done a video on this previously, but under the quick actions here, let's see if quick actions gives us the remove background option, and it does. All we had to do was get rid of the lock here in the bottom right hand corner, and that popped up. We'll just click on remove background, and after a second here, it does a pretty good job of removing that background for us. There was one issue here with the cord there, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna paint that back in by using the brush tool there. So I'm going to size down the brush tool by clicking. I can either click on this and I can size it that way, or I can press the brackets that are like the square brackets, the left and right square brackets, to be able to adjust the size there. So I can come in and I can just, I gotta switch over to white. So using the white on here, I can paint this back in. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. And then I will zoom back out here. There we go. All right, and I would say that that looks pretty darn good there. So all I have to do now is I can right click on this and click on convert to smart image. That's going to flatten the layer for us and make it so that we're ready to start with our filters here. So I'm just going to click on filter and then filter gallery. And I'd like to actually see all of me here instead of this really close-up view of my face. So I'm going to click on this in the bottom left, this drop down here, and I'm going to click on fit to screen, and that is going to make it so that we can take a look at everything here. Now, in the last video, what we did was we worked exclusively with poster edges here, and that gives us these black dots on here that we can then smooth out with the oil paint filter. But today we're going to be looking at the cutout and the palette knife options here, and both of these are going to help us get a like a painted sort of look of our person here. Okay, so cutout. There are 3 different options that you can work with here, and the edge fidelity honestly does not do a whole lot. It affects the you know, the highs and lows of some of the colors there, but it's ultimately not going to do a lot once we adjust our top 2 layers here, our options here. So we first have the number of levels, and what that is the number of different colors that we have here. So if I bring this all the way down, you can see there's only a couple of, so it says 2 here. So we've got basically we've got black and tan, and then we've got some white in here as well. And so you can see there's very few colors options there. And then if you click on 8, then that will give us quite a few more options for colors there and a lot more detail that way. And speaking of detail, that's where edge simplicity comes in. The higher the number, the more simple that the design is going to be. And the lower the number, the more complex that your design is going to be. So maybe we want for this to be fairly simple here. Now I want my eyes to be in it because it's creepy when there's no eyeballs, right? So let's go ahead and drop it down to 6. And then let's adjust our levels here to be able to lower some of the detail once again on this and see where we get. I like 6 on that as well, so that I can get a little bit more detail in my eyes there. I want to make sure that I keep my eyes kind of looking like eyeballs a little bit. Maybe going back up to 7. Yeah, we're gonna leave it at 7 and then 6, but feel free to play around with this as much as you want. So we're gonna hit okay on this, okay? And then what we're gonna do is we're going to go back into the filter gallery, and we are going to click on palette knife. We're gonna adjust this to fit in the screen size again here in the bottom left. And we are going to see some different options here as well. Now, the stroke size, this is like basically the size of the, essentially like if you were painting this, the brush strokes that you're using here. So the higher the number, the lower the detail on this. And then the lower the number, the higher the detail on this one specifically, okay? So stroke size is going to be your main tool here that you're going to be using to be able to adjust how everything is going to look there. I would say that 15 looks pretty good here. And then stroke detail, adjusting that isn't going to do a whole lot for us here. And then softness, let's take a look at what's going to happen when we adjust that. Let's let it load for a second here and head back to the beginning. Not really noticing a lot there either. So stroke size is going to be the thing that's really going to be impacting the way that that looks here. Okay, so we have basically kind of flattened out some of the details that we had in the previous from the previous filter that we had applied here, and this already gives us a pretty decent job here. But what we're going to do is we're then going to switch over to our paint tool, and you're going to see that it's not going to allow us to be able to paint on this. What we can do is duplicate the layer, okay? And then what we can do is we can just call it fill, okay? And what we can do is we can flatten out the image, and it's going to, so basically whenever you click on it with the paint tool, it's going to say that it needs to be the smart object must be rasterized before proceeding. Basically, we've got to flatten out the image and make it so that there's not so many different effects going on there all at once. So we're going to hit OK, and then you're going to see that where it used to say filter gallery here in the bottom right corner and smart filters, that's all going to go away. So I can now come in here and I can adjust the size of my brush so that I can make it a little bit bigger here. Like I said earlier, you can adjust the size of that with the left and right square brackets. And then what I can do is I can hit I to be able to pick up our little eyedropper here, or I can hit B to be able to go back to our brush. So I'd like to be able to flatten out some of these details here. So I'm going to choose this blue color of my jacket. I'm going to get rid of some of these white dots that are here. Just a lot more detail than we really need on this kind of painted design here. We're trying to make this look a little bit flatter there to be able to take out some of the details here. Okay. We can get a little bit more here. Get a little bit more of these details here. Get rid of that so that our jacket looks a little bit better. Okay. Now we don't want to remove all of the highlight and all of the shadows from everything. We just kind of want to make sure that the number of details are, are what we want here. Now, as you're going through and you are, grabbing the color that you want and kind of filling that in there, just make sure that you do this very sparingly on your actual face, because the more changes that we make on our face, the less recognizable that our character that we're working with here is going to be. So just make sure that, whatever sort of changes that you do end up ultimately making, it is something that you're not changing too much here. I mean, if I come in here and I do this, for example, I'm really flattening out my nose altogether, and I'm basically creating somebody that looks completely different by doing that. So you just got to be really careful with the facial, with the face there. Okay. Okay, now let's see here. So this already looks pretty good. Now, if I wanted to, I could spend, a ton of time on this to be able to get rid of all of the individual little details, and then we can get a nice and flat kind of painted look here. But for now, this looks pretty good. And if you want to be able to add some more detail back in underneath, what you can do is you can go back over here to your first layer here, and you can duplicate that and then call that, let's see, detail. Okay. Now what we'll do with this is we're actually going to take these smart filters and we're going to throw them in the trash. Okay. So that is going to bring us back to the way that we used to look originally. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the opacity on this, like way down on this, so that we can get us that painted look here. But maybe we want a little bit more detail in there. Like, for example, in my beard, maybe we want a little bit more detail in. Maybe we want my eyes to stand out a little bit more. And so you can play around with the opacity here to be able to give yourself a little bit more detail on your final product here, so that it feels more lifelike while still giving you that kind of painted sort of design here. Now, we don't have a background on this, so what we can just do is we can come up here to new layer, and we're just going to hit OK on that. And then we can just grab our paint can here, and we can just choose a color. Red is a color that could look pretty good. And of course, I have gotten rid of everything. I need to make sure that I drag this to the bottom. All the way to the bottom there. And there you go. I'd say that that looks pretty good. I could put this on a canvas and I could tell people that I painted it, and maybe they wouldn't question it. But maybe they would. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you actually physically like came in with a pencil and paintbrush and everything, and and painted it, it would have a different stylistic, design here. But I feel like that this looks pretty good, for our little art project here. So that is going to be it for today's video. We will continue to look at some more options in the filter drop-down menu here. We may look a little bit more into some of the options for the filter gallery. So stay tuned for that, but we will definitely be looking into more of these functions in the upcoming videos as well. So stick around for that, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.